Let's hear from a psychologist now. We've heard from social scientists already. Sorry, I've lost my page. Professor Linda Steg is from the University of Groningen and is going to give us a psychological perspective on how all of us could embrace the energy transition and accelerate the process. Professor Steg.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I will actually start with answering the question posed by you before the break. What can we do to help mitigate climate change, to contribute to a sustainable energy transition? A lot of things. We heard many of these things already before. So we can accept that windmills are being placed around us, and accept does for me also imply that you say no, not accept, right? Accept is not pushing your thing forward. Or install solar PV on our homes. We can adopt our diets, eat less animal-produced products, because that's also related to climate change. Transport ourselves in a more sustainable way, so not flying or driving a fossil-driven car, but electric vehicles or public transport, or maybe even cycling and walking, which I see many people doing in Trondheim as well. But also insulating our home, buying energy-efficient appliances. So technology oftentimes also involves behavior change, or at least that people accept such changes happening around there in their life. But it also implies that we can vote differently. That was mentioned before the break as well. If people would vote differently, then things might change as well, or demonstrate. So there's many different things that we as individuals can do that would help mitigate climate change. So what motivates us to do these things? Well, one of the factors that we study a lot in Groningen is looking at values, and we define values as general goals that people strive for in their life. So what they generally deem important. And 4 types of values are particularly relevant for understanding sustainable energy use or energy behavior. And 2 of those values make people focus on their own interest. Hedonic values, we want to have a pleasurable life, we want to reduce effort. And egoistic values means that we want to enhance our resources, save money, for example. And oftentimes doing something good for the environment is not the most pleasurable thing to do, or not the financially most advantageous things to do, right? If you insulate your home or buy an electric vehicle, you often need to invest a lot, and not everyone is able to do so. And cycling in a pouring rain is not what many people would like. But sometimes they do co-occur. So if you would turn down the heating in your home, in northern countries at least, you would save money as well. And cycling on a sunny day might be pleasurable, right? 2 other values make people focus on the collective interest. And that's first, altruistic values. We also care about the well-being of other people. And not only our close others, but also people in the developing world, which face climate change consequences much more, much more negative consequences than we do here. But also future generations that, as the last IPCC report indicated, are likely to encounter much more negative consequences of climate change. And biospheric values means that people also care about nature and the environment as such. Not surprisingly, the more strongly people endorse these 2 types of values, the more likely they are to act in sustainable energy behavior. So you might wonder, well, might already have thought about how strongly do people endorse these values? And oftentimes people have the assumption that people are mostly driven by self-interest. They want to enhance their resources and reduce effort and less care about others and the environment. Well, these are data from the European Social Survey that indicate the opposite. Many people indicate that they quite strongly care about nature and the environment and about the well-being of other people, more so than particularly the egoistic values, enhancing their resources. So many people care about this, and this is not only cheap talk, because what I said, the more strongly people endorse biospheric and altruistic values, the more likely they are to engage in pro-environmental actions. Not always, I'm coming back to that in a minute, Well, actually, let's move to the next slide. People not always... sorry. I will come back to the why people not always act upon their values in a minute. Let's now first start with discussing or reflecting on what can we do to motivate people who care less strongly about nature and the environment or the well-being of other people. Well, there's at least two routes that you could explore. And it's both focus on the identity that people have. And identity reflects how people see themselves. And there's first self-identity that reflects how people see themselves as an individual. And particularly relevant in the environmental domain is environmental self-identity. And that reflects the extent to which people think they are a pro-environmental person. Well, not surprisingly, the more strongly people care about the environment, the more likely they are to see themselves as a pro-environmental person. And if you see yourself as a pro-environmental person, you're likely to act accordingly because we are motivated to be consistent, to act in line with how we see ourselves. But the identity is also dependent on your past behavior. So if you realize you acted pro-environmentally before, your self-identity is also stronger and you're also more likely to act pro-environmentally. The other way around is also true. If you realize or are made aware of the fact you didn't act pro-environmentally, your environmental self-identity will be weakened and you're less likely to act accordingly. And that is oftentimes what happened in campaigns. It was often emphasized that people do not do the right thing yet. We do need to do more. And from this perspective, you would say that reminding people of the things that they already do might strengthen their environmental self-identity and promote pro-environmental actions. We not only have a personal identity, but also a social identity. And social identity implies that we are part of many groups, and if we identify with this group, we are likely to adopt the goals of the group as our own goals and act accordingly. And that means that being part of pro-environmental groups might also promote pro-environmental actions, or being part of groups that embrace pro-environmental goals might also promote pro-environmental actions. And that's what we found in our research in many different types of groups, being it a local community, local energy community, or an organization, or being a member of a political party, or seeing your government as pro-environmental, increases the likelihood that you act pro-environmentally. So let me give one of the examples. If you think your company strongly endorses pro-environmental values, has the mission to reduce its environmental impact, and acts accordingly, so not only cheap talk, but also implements it in practice, then you're more likely to see yourself as a pro-environmental person as well, to adopt these pro-environmental goals of your organization and act accordingly. This is particularly the case among those who do not strongly care about the environment themselves. So being part of a group that embraces pro-environmental goals might promote pro-environmental actions if you're part of this group. So these social factors play an important role as well. This is my final slide. Why do people not always act upon these pro-environmental values? Because they do think that they are important, right? That's what the data shows us over and again. Well, it should also be possible and sufficiently attractive to act pro-environmentally. And this is not always the case. So behavior change is not only the responsibility of individuals, many actors also need to act to facilitate and enable people to act in line with the values that they endorse. And that might imply that you tell them how to cook a nice vegan or vegetarian meal, to build the right infrastructure to enable pro-environmental actions, to implement laws or to provide subsidies, all to enable pro-environmental actions. And this is also what I heard many times in the morning sessions and later on as well, that if we want to move to a sustainable energy system, everyone needs to act. Everyone has a responsibility. Not only consumers, but also the financial sectors, governments, companies, everyone needs to act together. So the key question is, how can we make this happen? Thank you.